I have this incredible human being who has gone through so much in life. When I was talking to her, it is every 5 seconds I was getting goosebumps. But you know what is incredible about her? She's sitting here smiling today, rebuilding her life, redesigning her life the way she wants to, even after going through hardships after hardships and being a support to other women. I'm now embracing a child-free life, or should I say I'm now childless, not by choice, after 10 years of an infertility battle. After 3 rounds of IVF, near fatal ectopic pregnancy and a hysterectomy at 41, which has now led me to be childless, not by choice, which is not a title that you want to carry for yourself, but it is a title that and a community that I'm now part of. It's so interesting what you just said. You said, you know, there was you were in the sea full of moms and you just try to fit in. Because I'm sorry, but all us moms is inevitably you speak about children. Somewhere in that social circle, people would have now, hang on a second, she doesn't want to tell me more about it, but then she wants to go and I'm talking to you about this because being a woman, you hear all these things. Like I've been sick challenges. Yeah. Why is she not telling me about this? But she wants to go on her podcast and talk about things like that. Do you feel there is a sense of judgment there as well somewhere? Infertility itself, the way I see it, is it's like a disease, a silent disease that takes over your body, but that no one can see. It's an invisible disease that you battle through, and it's all done behind closed doors and baggy clothes. Welcome to Her Own Narrative, a space where each woman here owns her story unapologetically and authentically. Today, I have this incredible human being who has gone through so much in life. When I was talking to her, it is every 5 seconds I was getting goosebumps. But you know what is incredible about her? She's sitting here smiling today, rebuilding her life, redesigning her life the way she wants to, even after going through hardships after hardships and being a support to other women, building a community. Welcome, Anika. Thank you. Hi, Anika. How are you? I'm good, thank you. Thank you for being here. Yes, thank you for being here. So let's dive into who Anika is and why is Anika here to share her story today. Wow, that's a good question to go straight into, right? Let's start. So I am Anika. I'm a 43-year-old woman, wife, daughter, sister, and I'm now embracing a child-free life, or should I say I'm now childless, not by choice, after 10 years of an infertility battle. After 3 rounds of IVF, near fatal ectopic pregnancy and a hysterectomy at 41, which has now led me to be childless, not by choice, which is not a title that you want to carry for yourself, but it is a title that and a community that I'm now part of. So what makes you talk about this stuff? Because I feel like it's not talked about. It's still a very whispered topic, especially infertility in itself. And having been through it, I know exactly how it feels. And that was me, you know, silently battling it behind the scenes. But now 10 years later, I'm in a better place to talk about it and feel like I can be the voice for the women who are still fighting behind the scenes. So childless by choice. Well, so the term for myself, I fall under the category called childless, not by choice, and select choice, not by choice. Child-free is when you have chosen not to have children. So mine is the fact that I cannot have children. Child-free is when you've chosen not to have children. So that's the kind of difference between the two. See, this is so great. Just talking about that, it's sense of awareness. Like you educated me today on something. And that is so important because you're not the only one. And there's so many women out there battling, as you just said. How does it make you feel talking about it, coming out there? And what is the mission for this? Mission? Not like Tom Cruise. I don't have a mission as such. I would say my mission is to build a community of my own now, of women who are child-free or childless, not by choice, so that we feel like we have a space of our own. Because when I was going through it, and I'm still going through it, it's very hard to find these communities. And if they are, they're on a global network, and it's hard to make those connections. And I think for me, I'm a very
personable person and I want to meet people and have conversations face to face like we are doing today, there's just so much power in there. And if you can't find your people, you just end up, battling with things behind the scenes when there's actually support around you. You just don't know where to look for it.
So you essentially are saying you're building a support system, what you needed at that point, right?
Yeah, so I think for me at the moment, I would say I'm building a community of women who are childless, not by choice, or child free, to come together and basically celebrate our lives and share our struggles, but also celebrate wins and achievements and basically learn from each other. And how do you live a fulfilling life when you have closed the door on motherhood, either by choice or it's been taken away from you?
Because as we were talking about it earlier, women and motherhood is kind of, it's when society, we think that goes hand in hand. So when you started this journey of talking about this, what was you feeling before it all started there? When you said, I'm going to be, I'm childless, not by choice, and I'm going to talk about this. What was the feeling at that point in you saying that, okay, now I want to go and talk about this?
I think I was just, it was a hard realization for me to walk away from, to say, I can't have children. It's a really hard, bitter pill to swallow. And I think once I started saying it out loud and, when people would ask me, do you have children? And I'm like, no, I can't have children. The strength started coming in me and I just thought, well, actually, there's one of me. Then I'd meet other people. I'd meet another woman who's also childless or has chosen not to have children. And I was just like, slowly around me, I was just like, I actually have women all within my circles already that I know, but we've just never actually come together. And, we've just known about each other. We've always assumed we know their story, but we don't actually know their story or what their reasons are behind it. So I just know that for me, I was just like, I want to find other women who I can resonate with, because I'm in a sea full of mums constantly. And I feel like I'm on the outside of that circle. And I just thought, I want to create my own circle where I fit in and I can say and feel how I want to feel with no judgment, and just feel fully accepted. And so that's what I started doing. I just thought, well, by me sharing my story, it's naturally people are going to gravitate towards me who are also in a similar situation. And that's exactly what's happened 9 months in. And I'm building my community, should I say.
Just 9 months in.
Yeah.
It's so interesting what you just said. You said, there was, you were the sea full of moms and you just try to fit in. Because I'm sorry, but all us moms is inevitably you speak about children. That is not because because that becomes our identity, isn't it? It's having, so you want to feel belong. And this is not only just about your situation, it's about everybody. When you're trying to fit in so much, but you are not feeling belonged.
Yeah. You were in a situation so drained when I would be around mums, especially, whether they're friends or networking events. Naturally, even for my business prior to this, I would network a lot. So all the networking events generally would be women. And first thing everyone talks about is their kids. And so you sit there and you nod and you smile. And then it's just like, okay. And then no one ever asks about you. And if they do, it's just, oh, how many children do you have? Not do you have children, just the assumption that you have children. And when you say you don't, I don't know what else to say.
There's no one else.
The conversation just goes silent. And I just think there's so much more to a woman than just motherhood. But we just stop at that. And I think that question is so hard to answer, but it also makes other people feel so uncomfortable.
There we go. I was about to get to that. I was about to get that. Because it's not, and there is a difference as well how you flip the story. Because what you just said to me to begin with this conversation, you said when people used to come to you and the first time you said, I can't have children. There's a lot of women, they will say, no, I don't have children. Yeah. They wouldn't, it's very hard pill to swallow. I can't have children. So I spoke about my insecurity to you before we hit the button record. And it is, it's one of the identities we grow up with, that one day up we're going to embrace motherhood. But when you can't, so tell me at that point, the very, very first time when somebody spoke to you about having children, how many children you have, and you said, I can't. What was there inside? Was there a fear of anxiety? What did you feel?
You are. I think that question even still now, to be honest, I got it asked a couple of months ago. And you navigate in a different way through the years, and you start building a wall for yourself, and you build the strength.
Protect yourself.
Yeah, you protect yourself, or you just think, right, how long is this conversation going to go on for? Do I even say anything? And that's, I think, the other thing as well. When you say you can't have children, you're kind of, the reason I say that is because you kind of, you want the conversation to stop there. Whereas if you say, oh, I don't want children, then that leads on to, oh, you're going to regret it. If you say you can't have children, it's kind of like, oh, okay. It implies that, okay, you've tried, or, you know, for whatever reason, you can't have children. But what I found is also when you say I can't have children, naturally people want to offer their opinion and their suggestions. And, oh, have you tried adoption? Have you tried surrogacy? My friend did this, my friend that did that. So as a person on the receiving end, it's very difficult because you feel like no matter what you say, your answer is just never justified.
Yeah, and it's never enough. You get no more.
And also I find that by saying, oh, I can't have children or I don't want children, it can come across as a blunt response. But in a way, we're just trying to say, do you know what? I don't want to talk about this. I'm answering it, but I want to move on because I want to talk about my life in terms of there's other things to me. But it feels like that question, if it doesn't get fulfilled by the receiver, they will just keep going with it.
So, you know, there's a social circle where somebody comes and asks you that question and your answer is, I don't want to talk about this. So this is the answer for me to tell you I don't want to talk about it. But on the other hand, you want to actually now say, I want to talk about this because I want to build that community around me, A, where I fit in, where I belong, and B, I want the other woman to feel that she's not alone either.
Yeah.
Right? So do you think there is somewhere in that social circle people would have now, hang on a second, she doesn't want to tell me more about it, but then she wants to go and I'm talking to you about this because being a woman, you hear all these things like I'm sick challenges.
Yeah.
Why is she not telling me about this? But she wants to go in on her podcast and talk about things like that. Do you feel there is a sense of judgment there as well somewhere?
Maybe. I think it just depends on the social situation that you're in, because most of the time these conversations come at you either at a wedding or something like that. So, you're there, you're trying to celebrate, you're trying to have a good time. And then the question comes at you, and it depends on who's asking and what generation's asking as well. You feel like that question is going to lead on to another question. And it feels, like they're just never going to be satisfied, or they're just trying to get to a point where it's just like, okay, how can I bring into my life this conversation? So it is a difficult one, as in, yes, obviously I'm talking about it, but I'm talking about it to bring awareness and to educate people, because even my mum friends who obviously follow me and have been on this journey as well have said to me, I've been on this journey and I thought I knew what you were going through. It's only now I actually seen, because of the way you're vocalizing what you were feeling, the emotions that went through. I'm learning so much more, and even I am now understanding what's appropriate to say to somebody and what's not appropriate. And even I've been guilty of asking these questions in the past, and now I realize the repercussions of it. So I was a bit hesitant and thinking, okay, if I'm going to share this, am I going to offend anyone? Because like I said, I come from a sea full of mum friends as networks. But the feedback I am getting is the fact that people are learning and appreciate that me sharing this and saying, actually, I'm glad that you're saying this, because I had no idea the effects these simple questions would have that, I'm guilty of asking.
Yeah. No, this is absolutely right. And the emotions you're going through, if we go back into the journey, I'm assuming it's going to be starting from IVF, right? And people don't usually, yes, they say I've had much of it. Now, very, very recently, people have started accepting and, saying it out loud. That I have friends now who very openly say that we've done this with IVF, or we're trying for IVF and everything. But as a woman's body, you're going through a lot at that point as well. There is obviously, as a growing another human being in your body is a different ballgame altogether. But then growing a human being through IVF is totally different ballgame altogether. What was your body going through at that point? What were your heart and mind going through at that point as well?
I think going through IVF wasn't an easy decision to make.
Yeah.
But you kind of exhaust everything. We were trying for 4 or 5 years, nothing was happening. So then you'd question, okay, something's wrong. And I did go to the doctors and ask to be put forward for IVF, but I was told I was too young. So I was told to go away, keep trying naturally. And by that time, you just feel like you're losing hope. Everyone around you is, falling pregnant really easily, friends, family, everyone. And you just think, why is this not happening for me? So you're like, right, what can I do to help this? And that at that stage, everyone's kind of talking about IVF. You look into it and think, okay, great, let's just, let's look into it. And you're full of so much hope when you start it, but you don't realize how much toll it's going to take on you and how much it is going to strip you of your identity. Nobody talks about that. You only ever hear the success stories. So that's why you go in for IVF, because you're like, well, I heard this person felt pregnant with it, so it must work. You never hear the unsuccessful stories of IVF, which are mine. Our stories are never shared. So we've been through it. We've had loss, we've had trauma, but you never hear those statistics. You always hear, I fell pregnant through IVF. And to be honest with the IVF as well, it's only like 15%. It's not even a high percentage, but when you're going through it, you will clutch onto every single hope. Yes, that one is hope is what basically guides you through the whole process.
I think that's for life. Whenever you get hope, you're going to go and grab and like onto it, as you said.
Yeah, and you obviously think, okay, I'm going to do it, and hopefully I only have to do one round. And you don't realize, actually, no, round 1, round 2, round 3. It just keeps going.
Oh, you're so true. And what you just said, you only hear success stories. And from your experience, if you had to put IVF in one sentence, and we're not here to talk, you discredit anything or anything, but as you said, it took a toll on you and no one talks about it.
Yeah.
For somebody who's considering it, how would you wrap that up?
It's a hard one, because looking back on it, sometimes I do regret going through IVF. I think, did I jump into it too quickly? But then at the time, I was like, well, I felt like I had no other option to do it. I had quite a traumatic experience, so I can't shout about it in the positive light for somebody who it's worked for. So for me, the way I see IVF and infertility, if you ask me as a sentence, I would say infertility itself, the way I see it, is it's like a disease, a silent disease that takes over your body, but that no one can see. It's an invisible disease that you battle through, and it's all done behind closed doors and baggy clothes. That is how I would sum up infertility and IVF.
That's really sad.
When it doesn't work, that's what I was saying.
No, I get it. I get it. Because as we spoke about, as a woman, as a girl as well, I think we see our moms, yeah. And that is part of growing up. But one day I want to have my own children.
Yeah,
I was that hard to say.
Yeah, honestly, that was, as I mentioned, I'm an event planner. So for me, I planned my whole life, around getting married. And my timeline was, right, I'm going to get married, I'm going to have kids. And this is how many kids I'm going to have, and this is what we're going to do, and these are the kind of thing. I've even got a box at home in the loft, which I've saved is basically from the age of 7. I was started putting things aside that I'm going to show my kids this. So all my knitwork or tea towels that I used to have from year 7, love letters, Valentine cards, everything like that, cringeworthy love letters, should I say. I've kept it all, not to show anyone else, but I was like, well, I want to show my kids, like, this is what your mother was like when she was growing up, and, pen pal letters and all sorts of things. That box now is still there, but kind of just gets opened at Christmas when I'm trying to get the Christmas tree decorations.
But so we're talking about you, but it's tough. It's a difficult one for you as a couple as well. It can't be, it's your journey, but journey is actually with somebody else as well. And was it as hard for your husband, or is it harder for, how would you sum that up?
It is definitely hard for the man, but I feel guilty for it now. It's funny because I did a podcast recently, another podcast, and my parents listened to that. And my mom, she said to me, she goes, wow, I've been on this journey with you, but the emotions that you went through was horrific. And I didn't realize half of it. But she goes, I now really feel for Harsh, my husband. She goes, the strength that man has had to put up with to go through this and watch you go through this. And we feel guilty as well that we never once asked how was he, or what support he needed, or anything like that. And I really feel for him. Like, I'm so fortunate he's my rock and he's carried me through all of this. But that's exactly it. He's carried him and me, us together throughout the whole thing. He's held my hand, he's wiped my tears. He's seen me at my absolute lowest. And for a man, that's not easy at all. And when you go through IVF, the focus is all on the woman because obviously it's her body, but the man has to witness everything. So he would be with me at every single scan, every appointment, everything. So he was fully involved. We're a team to some degree, but it's my body. And therefore the emphasis all falls on they do. But I do feel for men, especially when you're going through infertility, they do get forgotten about, but they play to some degree an equal part in the process, and it is our story. So again, me talking about this, I've got to a place that I'm comfortable talking about, but as a couple, I've had to make sure we're comfortable that because it's our journey, it's not just my journey.
What wise thoughts about this?
It's taken a while, I think. So I shared my journey 5 years ago, a snippet of kind of my IVF journey, and that at that point as well, I'd kind of explained I couldn't have children. And that as well, it took me 3 months to convince him that I wanted to do this. And he was a bit reluctant, but then he could see, he goes, if this is going to help you move forward and become the version of you that you need to be, then yeah, let's do this. But it took a while because he's very private person.
Yeah.
I'm not, I am a private person, but when there's certain things that feel worth sharing, I will share it.
Well, you can be as private as you want, but if it's something is actually helping you heal and be helping you bring your purpose out there as well.
Yeah.
You feel like, you are inspiring some other person out there who's probably sitting there while listening to this podcast, going through the same thing. And you've probably helped her carry herself through, or even a man. Then you know what? I was as important in this journey.
Yeah.
Right? So we're talking, Anika, and I am looking at you. I'm looking at your eyes, and obviously there's always going to be sadness about it. Yeah. I don't know. Is it obvious? Am I making an assumption here? But at the same time, I can imagine 5 years down the line and 9 months in this community building journey, you must have either built a wall around you or learned to manage your emotions.
I think, learned to manage my emotions. I've become a lot stronger because I feel like there's a sense of freeingness that's come and a relief that comes with sharing. So I know how difficult it is to share a personal journey. This, like I said, I may come across confident right now and I'm sharing it, but it's taken years to get to this stage. And the reason I've got to this stage is because every time I've shared, there's more relief that gets released. Literally. So even just even just whether it's not necessarily talking about being on a podcast or on social media, just talking to a person or even a stranger in the street. Every time I spoke about it, I just felt, you just feel it inside. You go, I feel a lot lighter today. I had a really good day today. Why? Because I actually just got to be me. I wasn't trying to pretend to be someone. I wasn't hiding this shameful secret, and that's what it is. There is no shame to it, but when you live in that and you can't express how you really feel, you start feeling shame and guilt around your situation, and you shouldn't have to feel like that. Whereas once you start talking about it, you realize I'm not the only one going through this. Classic example, IVF clinics. You go there, you sit in the waiting room, everyone knows why they're there, but no one even makes any eye contact with each other. They literally buried in the magazine or on their phones, and you just think, we all know, we're all here for the same reasons.
But why do you think it is? You think it's still, obviously society is a lot more educated, a lot more awareness, but still there is a taboo around, you can't conceive naturally. So you go, well, obviously we can't. And that's got nothing to do that I have done that to myself. That's natural. It's something, it's like, you use the word disease, so I'm just going to repeat that. If you do have a disease, no one's going to look at you like, why did you do that to yourself?
It's happened to you. It's happened. If you're not sure you haven't made it out, it has happened.
Yeah. So you think that's going to change anytime soon?
I think so, slowly, because I think we even within families now, there is so many cases of it.
Yeah.
So even when I talk to other people now, they'll be like, "Oh, my sister-in-law went through it. My cousin went through it. My brother and sister-in-law are currently going through it." So it, where it's no, before it used to be the minority, it's becoming like the majority now. Everybody knows someone, whether that is a colleague or something like that. So the term IVF is more widely known. The implications of infertility people probably don't know, because those are your deep emotions that you kind of keep within you, and you're only really going to share with your nearest and dearest. So I think the emotional toll of infertility probably isn't expressed enough, or if it is, it's always done at a later stage, similar to like my situation, years down the line. Or when you speak to mothers who have had children, they'll then express, actually, no, I actually had 2 miscarriages before this, or I was about to get more out. This is actually your IVF, but we just didn't tell anyone. So,
And actually, 20 years ago, nobody used to talk about miscarriages. IVF was definitely not spoken about, but even miscarriages. And now I know, even on a family and friend, a lot of women, and it's statistically, it's very, very common.
so it's becoming even more common now.
Yes. So why? But again, it's about what you choose is what you're not changing, isn't it? So if you are choosing to be quiet, the society will be quiet, and they're going to be hush hush about everything. The minute you start talking about it, it's like even cancer for that matter. People used to say C word.
Yeah.
People wouldn't say. So many people used to die because of it, but nobody would know. There was no awareness, there was no diagnosis, and there was a shame around it.
Yeah.
There was no shame around it. This is natural, as I said. Coming with all this, and it's taken an emotional toll. It obviously is a big grief in life, and we still building yourself up from there. That identity crisis that it must have brought to you and other fellow women when it happens, how do you rebuild from it?
Oh, okay. So I've had to rebuild myself probably about 7 times. So this version that's sitting here,
Is it 7.0?
yeah, and it's still evolving. I would say I probably love this version now of me, but it's taken many versions. So after every cycle, I had to rebuild myself and figure out, how do you move forward from this? You start feeling less of a woman. You doubt yourself. Infertility has a way of making you feel like a failure, because this is the one thing that it's almost like it's a given. Like, as a woman,
You're a woman, you got to become a woman.
you have a period, you're gonna have this. Okay, that's the way it follows. And when it doesn't happen, you start questioning yourself. Have I been singled out? Have I been chosen for this path? Again, you probably realize so many other people around you are going through that, but when you're in it, you honestly become tunnel vision, that it's only yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
So that isolating period starts happening for yourself. And it is, I've had to rebuild myself over and over again. My confidence would get knocked every single time, because you walk away from one cycle that hasn't worked. You're like, right, who do we tell? Who knew about it? And you've got to kind of break the news to everybody. That in itself is hard work, because, you're educating people on a science experiment. And a different generation take different news differently and things like that. So your identity changes there as well, because you're like, well, I'm now an educator rather than a daughter or a wife or a sibling or anything else.
And it's exhausting.
It is exhausting.
Yeah. You just want somebody to just get you. You're right. And you don't always want to be educating people on your emotions and
I was supporting everyone else on my journey rather than getting.
There we go. I totally get that, because sometimes it's like, I'm going to say, it's my emotions, get me, rather than me telling you why I'm feeling that way. Yeah, sometimes you just want to be. It's the identity crisis. It's rebuilding yourself. It's finding that strength to rebuild yourself.
Yeah.
Where do you think you got your strength to rebuild yourself? Because it's very easy. Like, you and me could sit here and say, yes, I've got the strength. A lot of people don't have it.
I honestly, now looking back, and obviously people telling me, wow, you're such a strong woman, I haven't believed that at all. I'm only starting to believe it, but along the process, everyone was like, wow, you're so brave and you're so strong. And I'm just like, no, I'm not. I really am not.
So what made you put that, I'm sorry to hear you, because, when they were saying you were strong and you did not feel you're strong, what were you actually masking at that point that made them think that you're strong?
I think just if they heard what, any process I'd been through, any surgery I'd been through, wow, you're so strong, you're so. And in my head, I was just like, I don't see myself as strong. I just see myself, my whole motto in life is just going through, making sure I don't live back in regret. So that's the only thing that got me through. Maybe that is what strength is. I don't know. But that was the only way I got through every single process. Didn't want to go through it and think, oh, I don't want to regret making the wrong decision, or maybe just try one more time. Maybe let's just do this. Let me just investigate this. Let's have one more operation. Let's have this. And that's the only way I've got through it. It's literally by not looking back in regret. But if you can transform that into strength, then maybe that is strength. I don't know. But if you had to list my qualities, I wouldn't put myself down as a strong person until now, when I now resilient. When I look back now, I'm like, wow, okay, you really are a strong woman. But I honestly think there was something that kept you going. Some things has definitely kept me going. And I think, I don't know, maybe I was chosen for this, to get to this stage.
What happens for a reason?
Yeah, to get to this stage where I can actually shine a light on this journey and help other women. So maybe there's strength in that. Yeah, in my voice.
You spoke about exhausting everything before you made the decision of saying, I am going to be childless, not by choice. Could you tell me a little bit more about all the exhausting, like all the things you actually went through?
So the whole journey.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. It is quite hard to hear. So if anyone who's listening, it may be a trigger. Well, I may be a trigger.
Yeah, that's why. And it's not because I want to hear it. I think it's important for somebody who is, the whole point of this podcast is somebody is going to get inspired and someone's going to feel not alone. For that woman who actually is listening to you and going through this, you will change her life.
Yeah.
So please.
No, that's fine. No, I'm happy. Like I said, I think we talked about it. I was, like, why do you want to share your journey? I said, I'm in a better place now to share it. Had you asked me this a couple of years ago, I probably wouldn't have been able to share this. But yeah, I went through, so as I mentioned, I went through IVF. We started a round of IVF. The NHS said no to us, so we went privately, and we went to a clinic in Harley Street to go through IVF. And I think in terms of my turning point, when my life changed would probably be that day. The day that we had an open day at the clinic. It was filled with hope, but I was just like, wow, is this the path that I'm now going to go on? Everyone else around me is falling pregnant so easily. I'm having to become an experiment to make this happen. But you're so filled with wanting to create this family for yourself that you will do anything. So yeah, we went to a clinic in Harley Street in London, signed up, went for an open day, and before you knew it, it was literally everything just got going. Scans, blood tests, egg monitoring, everything. And before you knew it, we were being booked in for our first round of IVF. I was like, well, okay, let's do this. Like, everything's moving really, really quickly. The last 4 years, we've kind of been a bit stagnant. And so I went through the process, and if you want me to talk about IVF, I can explain it, but it's a whole load of hormone injections that they give you to kind of increase your egg quality. So I think at one point I produced like 16 eggs. You're heavier on one side than the other. You're constantly at the clinics going back and forth for checks, and you get to know the nurses and doctors very well. They get to know you on a first name basis. They get to know you as your personality, and it's quite a homely feel to some degree because you're spending so much time there, but you are being prodded at. So you don't feel natural in yourself. You're like, oh, okay, an injection. Oh, we need to take an injection at this time. There's so much. How often do you have to take? You'd have to take, they would either do injections on you or you do them at home, and then there's like a booster one. So once you've had your eggs put inside you. You want to kind of mature them, and they will give you a booster, which needs to be taken like within 36 hours. And that is quite a painful injection as it is. So my husband would have to do that one for me. And even just generally all the injections, he'd be the lab assistant, he'd be getting the syringes ready, and then I'd do my injections in the evening. You get loads of bruising around it and things like that. So this is, I mean, the whole process doesn't feel natural to you at all. But you do it, and there's all these scans, invasive scans. One thing I would say about IVF is it just rips you of your dignity. It just goes right out the window because you've got to have so many scans. But yeah, you go through the process. And so we went through the first round of IVF, and I remember I managed to get good egg quality, and they put 3 embryos back inside me. And I remember them saying to me, "Oh, wow, okay, so we're working on the hopefulness of twins." And I was like, "Oh my God." I was like, "Oh, what did one? I don't want it one." I was like, "Okay." But I was like, "Fine, like, let's go with it." And so that was playing on my mind, the fact that I could, twins could be an option. And then they did the blood test, and they were like, "You're pregnant." So this was after my first round, and I was like, wow. And I was more terrified about the twins still playing on my mind, thinking, oh my God,
Am I going to cope?
am I going to cope? So yeah, they basically told me, you are pregnant, and you now need to wait until your 8-week scan, and we'll call you back in again. And so I was like, oh my God, I'm pregnant. Can't believe it. It's happened on the first round. And one of my friends was pregnant at the same time, again through IVF, and so she went for her scan, and she heard her baby's heartbeat. And so I was so excited. I was like, wow, okay, so mine is coming up. Went for the scan, lying on the bed, and they were scanning me, and they were like, I'm just lying there. It's just really silent, and I couldn't understand why everyone was silent in the room. And I was like, I should be hearing something. I was like, maybe they're still looking. 10 minutes they were scanning me. They couldn't find anything. And then they said to me, we know you're pregnant, but we can't find your baby. And I was like,
I can just imagine. Even my heart is sinking right now. So
I was like, okay, well, if you can't find it, how am I going to find it? Yeah. And they just said, sort of finish the scan. And then I remember the nurse giving me a tissue. And I was like, why is she giving me a tissue for? And then the doctor was like, look, just come into our room and we'll discuss it. And at that point, everyone else had clocked on that this is just not going to be a viable pregnancy. But for me, I was just like, okay, I'm pregnant. And at that point, they said to me, look, we can't find your baby. We don't know where it is. However, in the next few days, if anything happens, just go straight to A&E. And I was like, and at that point as well, they said, look, we don't think it's an ectopic pregnancy because you're too far gone. How far were you in? I was eight, going into 9 weeks, and that normally happens around 6-7 weeks. But they were like, look, we can't do anything further from this point. So we literally left the clinic, and I remember saying to my husband, oh, at least it's not an ectopic pregnancy. Not that I knew what an ectopic pregnancy was at that point. You just hear about it in the consent forms, and it's just a word that you kind of skim over with everything else that you're kind of signing your life away from. 2 days later, my right fallopian tube burst, and I was at home, and I just burnt up and passed out in the bathroom, and I was in absolutely excruciating pain. I had to call an ambulance, got rushed to hospital. And they did loads of investigations there, and I was in hospital for 2 days where they kept telling me that I'm still pregnant. And then finally they scanned me, and they said to me, actually, your uterus is full of blood right now, and if we don't get you theatre in the next hour, you're going to die. And that's when they diagnosed me with an ectopic pregnancy. So I got rushed into theatre, and my husband was left side of all the consent forms. I was terrified, as you can imagine. He was terrified. And yeah, they literally rushed me to theatre. They removed my right fallopian tube, which had burst, and the pregnancy was in there. And all the scarring that had come with it as well. And then I was wheeled back into the ward after several hours, and nobody was telling my husband anything. So he actually thought, that's it, she's passed away. So when we're going back to talking about husbands, this is what he's had to deal with. So for him, he's always savoured my life rather than anything else. He's always said, I would always choose you over a pregnancy. But yeah, after that, it was literally, I got put back into the ward again, and they were telling me, oh, here's a death certificate now with my name at the top saying I was a parent. And what would you like us to do with your pregnancy? Would you like us to cremate it, or do you want to take it home? And I was just confused. I was like, what are you even doing about? I don't understand what's gone on. And because the right fallopian tube had burst, it now meant like half your chances of falling pregnant, because now you only have one tube, the left one. So it meant kind of all this time and money that we'd already spent just going into this first round had halved already. So as it is, we had less percentage of chances of falling pregnant, and now they're getting even more or less and less. And then because of an ectopic pregnancy, once you have one, you've got a higher risk of having another one. So you walk away with so much to deal with. And in one cruel hit, you've just gone through so much. You were pregnant a few days ago, and now there you are signing the death certificate. None of our family even knew that we were pregnant, because we were waiting for the scan to show them, to tell them we're pregnant. So instead, we're phoning parents and siblings to tell them we were pregnant, but we've lost it and we're in hospital right now. And they're like, what?
Yeah, so confused.
Yeah, they knew we were going through IVF, but we just wanted to wait until we had something confident to say. So that was a really, really traumatic part of my life. The ectopic was so scary. Every so often I do get twinges in my body, and it literally takes me back to that moment again. But yeah, after that, it was like, right, how do we move forward with this? Again, I had to rebuild myself after that. I remember going back to work again, and I wasn't ready to go back to work at all. At work, nobody knew I had even gone through IVF or anything. And now they were finding out everything because I was in hospital and I was signed off. And when I went back, I was an absolute mess. I was not ready to go back. I felt like I'd been forced back to work. And I was just nervous around people, men, women, everyone. And just especially seeing pregnant women around you just tips you over the edge completely.
And see, a normal, somebody who's not gone through it would be able to understand those emotions.
They're not there. You just think, oh, it's pregnancy, you've got to be happy about it.
I bet that doesn't necessarily come from jealousy. That comes from your own fear, isn't it? Yeah, it's like, or I'll put somebody who was on my podcast. It comes from your own lack, somewhere. I'm not able to do this.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not happy. I get that.
Well, I really get that. Going back to being like a failure, that was failure number one. I was like, how has this happened? And
why me?
Why me? Why has this happened to me? Why have I been dealt with this card? Like, fair enough, lose the pregnancy, but in such a way, you're like, what's trauma?
This is trauma. Like, losing your child is a trauma anyway. But going through all that, my God, yeah. I can just imagine where you guys must have gone.
It was horrible. And that was the first round as well. So are you telling me you're doing? Yeah, I did 2 more rounds after that. Every single round after.
And then you're telling me you're not brave?
Well, like I said, yeah, I'm brave enough now to tell this story, but when you're going through it, you don't feel brave. You just feel like you've just got to roll with the punch.
What made you go through second round after this?
I took a bit of time out, but again, even with the clinics, you don't really have much time to process it, because then they're like, right, let's get going with it. I was terrified to do the second round, to be honest.
Gotcha.
I was just like, wow, how do I even do this? Ironically enough, after the first, because I had an ectopic pregnancy, I got flagged in the system on the NHS, and they offered me a free round of IVF. But we chose to still stick with our clinic, because now I needed to be monitored even more. I was like, actually, I just want to stay with the clinic who has my medical records and safety. I felt seen, I felt known by the nurses, and I was like, oh, if I need to be monitored, I want to be in a safe space. So we did one more round. Sadly, that didn't work, but again, absolutely terrifying. And now, because of the ectopic pregnancy and being monitored, I now had to keep being monitored after it was a negative pregnancy as well, to make sure it was a definite negative pregnancy. So for 6 weeks, I would have to keep going back to the clinic to have tests to make sure it was still a negative pregnancy. So instead of having elated emotions of being pregnant, I'm now literally saying, I don't want to be pregnant, because I actually am fearful from life. And it even got to the stage where because I had to go so regularly into the scan, my husband would try and come with me as often as he could. And they said, look, make sure you're never left alone, because if anything happens again, you need to go straight to A&E. So one of the appointments, I needed to go back into city, and they were like, are you coming on your own? They're like, is anybody can come with you? I was like, yeah, well, no, really. And the only person that was available was my dad. So I had to take him with me to the clinic, and he's now seeing this clinic in Harley Street in London, and seeing the fancy fish tank and everything like that. And he was with me just in case something had happened, like along the way. Like if I'd had any pains or anything like that, it could have been another ectopic, and he would have literally had to just call an ambulance and hit me straight to hospital.
You know, when your dad came with you as a daughter,
That was not easy.
I can imagine.
It was very hard.
Yeah.
It was hard for him. It was hard for me. I remember him sitting there, like I said, I went for the scan. He's like, do you want me to come with you? I was like, no, it's fine. You sit here. And he was just there, and he's looking around. And I remember him saying to me after, he goes, surely this has got to work, right? You're spending this much money. It's got to work. And I think that's the misconception, that you just think, right, that's going to work. If you spend this amount of money, it's got to work. And that is the hard and bitter truth about IVF and infertility. You can throw as much money at it, but it does not guarantee baby. But yeah, so like going back to the story, that was second round, and then third round was just as bad. We had frozen embryos we managed to get, and so we had them implanted again. Our hopes were just so high, because they were like, look, it's frozen embryos, it's got to work. It didn't work at all. And after those 3 rounds, we were literally diagnosed with unexplained infertility from the clinic. They said IVF is just not going to work for you going forward. So statistically, how often does this happen?
Your kind of it is you like 3 rounds and expect it.
It happens all the time, but again, we just don't talk.
We don't talk about it. So statistics high for this. And I was like, oh,
yeah, it's quite high. People have I know a lot.
And were you told about this before you went into it?
No. You go into it, you go to the clinics, and all you see is thank you cards all over the walls and baby pictures of all the success rates. You don't ever hear about.
Do you think if you did, would it have changed your decision of going through IVF?
I mean, you do look at them as hope and thinking, what, that could be our card on the wall soon. But I wish I did know that, because I think, like I said, when I say I kind of regret going through IVF, the reason being is because I just didn't know about it. I heard these 3 golden letters, and I thought they're going to solve my problem. And I didn't hear any of the horror stories that came with it, because again, those stories don't get talked about. You only ever hear, oh, my friend or my sister fell pregnant, they had twins, they had that's all you hear, the success rate. You never hear these stories, and this is why I want to talk about it more, because I wish somebody had told me this, or just be prepared. Like I said, just the word ectopic, I had no idea what it was until I was going through it. I had no idea that it could even happen. So this is when the embryo got lodged inside my right fallopian tube. I was like, how does it even go there? Yeah, no. Literally. So you just think, right, they're going to embed it inside your womb, and that's it. You have no idea it could travel anywhere else. So mine was growing outside of my womb.
Wow.
Yeah, which caused it to burst first. Yeah. So yeah, I think I wish I knew more. I wish people were talking about things more openly, because then you wouldn't feel as isolated when it does happen to you. Because again, you feel, even with the ectopic, I had no one to talk to about it. You hear about miscarriages, but you never hear about ectopic pregnancies.
Did it cause resentment towards the whole pregnancy and, going through, like, was there or towards society and the expectations? Was it somewhere like, oh my gosh, why? Like, I hate all of this.
I hated myself. I absolutely hated myself during that process, because I just kept feeling like, how much bad news can one person take? You just, 1 round, 2 round, 3, it's just non-stop, and you just start believing, oh, this is really not going to happen for me, is it? Or this is going to be a hard journey. But you still have that glimmer of the hope. You say, okay, just keep going, and going back to what I said before, I never wanted to look back and regret. So I can you asked me, how did I even do 3 rounds? That's what it was. That perseverance of never looking back. And even when I got to the 3rd round, that was only because the doctor said to me, it's just not going to work for you. Otherwise, I was in my mind going, should we do another one? I'll do another one. We'll find the money. We'll just do another.
Find the money. You'll find the strength. You do it. Go, this to your body. You keep doing it to your body.
Because you are literally dangled with hope, and you're just clutching at hope. And it's a dream you've had for, it's not something like, oh, I just want to go, it's like you've gone shopping and, oh, I really want that jumper. This is something that's been in you since maybe your teens. You just start,
As you said, you were 7 years old when you started acting. The minute you just show you care.
yeah, the minute you start having a period, you're like, you're gearing up motherhood. So,
Round 1, round 2, round 3. What made you decide that, as people are suggesting now as well, adoption, surrogacy, and this and that, but nope, this is not for me. I am okay not to have children. Where was that point?
the adoption side of things, I could never wrap my head around it. I think because I was going through the process, I was so hell bent on having a biological child. I wanted my child to look like me. And I wanted to carry a child. Along the process, my husband started looking into adoption. He was more up for it rather than I was. It's only because he could see what was happening to my body. Is that I cannot see you go through this time and time again. Adoption felt a bit more that we would be saying, "Oh, you, yeah."
Round 3. Was there a point that we spoke about adoption?
Yeah.
So your husband's now looking into it, but
I wasn't there at all. Because I just couldn't bring on the chance to have my own.
Yeah.
But he wanted to, and he thought, okay, if we go through the adoption route, then we're a team. Basically, we're both on it and are both equal partners. And we started looking into it. Well, he started looking into it. But for us, and when people ask me about adoption, it is a bit of a tender question because we were just never on the same page at the right time. So I think when he was looking into it, my mind wasn't fully engaged into it. And then when I started looking into it, I started looking into it during lockdown. And I think that's because obviously emotions get heightened and you have the time to think. He kind of was like, I kind of had to talk him around again to the idea of it. He'd kind of like, oh, do we want to revisit this again? So with adoption, you have to both be on the same page at the same time. And that you have to be a team to bring a child into the mix of things. So that's why adoption never really worked out for us. So,
tell me there was, no, tell me that was it. And this is where you started shifting, and then I was like, no, you know what? This has happened, and now I want to build my life again.
That kind of came later on. I think after the IVF, we had to kind of draw a line under it. If being told we've got unexplained infertility, we sort of thought, okay, fine, we can't have kids the conventional route. Looked into the adoption. Again, like I said, we weren't on the right page, same page at the same time. And within that, I was still having off surgeries. So within I've had 5 surgeries in 7 years, basically. So, and 3 rounds of IVF. So my body's been through a lot. And every time I've had to rebuild myself constantly. I had surgeries for endometriosis, which I was suffering with really badly through the IVF as well. That kind of spread across my bowel and my pelvic area. And then the left tube that was existing as well, we tried to unblock that, which unfortunately they couldn't as well. So that was another operation. And then on my last operation is when they found that I had large fibroids that were pressing on my bladder. So these were quite big growths, about 10 centimeters each. There was like 3 of them that were pressing on my bladder, which were causing me to have urine urgency. So it meant that I was constantly rushing to the toilets. Literally, I would go 5 times in 2 hours. There's no way I would have made this journey today, put it that way, without stopping several times. And it was just, it was ruining my quality of life, but I didn't realize it. Like with fibroids, there's no symptom, there's no pain with them. They just cause problems.
Symptoms.
Yeah, so they can either cause heavy bleeds, or they can cause anemia, or they can cause bladder related issues, which is what mine was. And so for a year I was being monitored with my doctors to say, look, we want to check the growth of them. We want to make sure they're not cancerous as well. Luckily they weren't. And then after a year, they saw that they were growing, but not heavily in terms of to be alarmed for that they could be cancerous. So that was one relief, that they weren't cancer, but the fact that they were growing and they would continue to grow. And normally with fibroids, they shrink when you go into menopause, but I was now entering my 40s. So they're like, look, if you could have another 10 years of this growth, it's up to you. How do you want to manage your life? And I had to weigh everything up. And that's when they said to me, our suggestion would be a hysterectomy to get rid of the fibroids. We exhausted 2 other options before that, but because of the growth and the location of the fibroids, I was basically, after 3 options, left with the hysterectomy. And I remember the doctor saying to me, "Are you sure you want to draw a line under this because it's not reversible, and no more IVF and no more, trying to have a child. You are going to be giving up your womb. Are you happy to do that?" So that's when I had to kind of draw a line under it completely. So prior to that, I kind of told myself I can't have children because I was told that. Now the word "I can't have children" meant something completely different. It was now a non-reversible procedure. And I had to say,
It's become a fact.
it became a fact. And it was a case of now I have to say goodbye to motherhood the conventional way.
Does it still hurt?
It's got better, but it's taken a long time. The word womb itself was such a trigger for me afterwards because it kept reminding me I don't have one. And you associate motherhood with womb and nurturing and reproductive organs and everything. And I just kept seeing myself that I had this massive hole there. You couldn't see it, but I felt it. And generally throughout my whole process, even with when I lost the right fallopian tube and that burst, I felt like something was missing. You can't feel it. But you just
elements of you psychologically.
Yeah, psychological, and you feel that your body is that you're losing parts that should be there and should be functioning. And the womb was the biggest part because with the word womb, like I mentioned,
The woman's it's an identity. I'm sorry to say it on the public platform, but that's what we'd be told. We'd be told.
Yeah.
That's part of our identity that you're going to be a mother.
Yeah.
Like it's funny. I think most people, there was something happening somewhere, and they asked a lot of people around, like, what would be one word you'd be remembered as? And one woman turned around and said, "I want to be remembered as a mama." And again, as a woman, I think it is one of those things that you want to be just a mom.
Well, I think it's just painted as the biggest reward of your life, right?
Oh, you added it beautifully.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And if you can't fulfill that, it's like, what else is fulfilling your life?
Right, Anika, let's talk about that now. Because you have, you haven't chosen. You've chosen to be that, because there, again, as people say, there are other ways of doing it, right? Your motherhood can come through adoption or surrogacy and everything, but you have made a choice for yourself, and you are going to own this. So how are you fulfilling your life without being mother?
I am saying yes to opportunities.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes. Are you mothering yourself?
I'm mothering I think I found that my mothering nature has definitely come out in different aspects of my life. It's through my family, the way I look after my parents, I look after my nieces and nephews. I get elements of that through constantly on a daily basis. So it doesn't have to just be channeled either to one person. And I know myself, I've got so much mothering instinct in me, but that can be transferred even into friends as well.
Your work is your child as well. Your friends, like you can nurture anything you want. Yeah, from a plant to your business, to anything.
Exactly.
Right. So yes, please carry on. How are you fulfilling that void? What people and society will tell you, mother. How are you filling it up?
So we go on a lot of holidays, that's for sure.
Yes, and you don't have to pay it straight at school holidays. Yeah, we have the broader side.
I'm enjoying all the perks that come with it. As I think before, when I used to go on holidays, there used to be so much judgment. I still get it now as well. Oh, another holiday. But holidays for us were a chance for us to reset, which people didn't realize. They just thought, oh, okay, you guys are child free. Off you go on another holiday. But that is now the case. We do go on a lot of holidays because we're like, well, we see that as our achievements.
Yeah.
So we're proud of our holidays because we go on really fun holidays and we experience loads of things. We're ticking things off our bucket list. So I was like, that's what we want to shout about. The same way a mother would want to shout about her child getting top grades in maths or, has got into this school or that school. This is the way we feel that we want to shout about our achievements. But when we do talk about our holidays, it's kind of met with a bit of...
So you can never win.
Never win.
No, you can't. But doesn't that bring you to a point, why do I need to win? I'll just do what works for me.
I think, yeah, before I used to worry about it. Now I'm just like, no, I openly say this is the way we're designing our life. We are a family of two. There we go. And we are redesigning our life. We are reworking on our marriage as well after 10 years of infertility. It takes its absolute toll on your marriage. So I feel like our marriage is even better now because there's no more obstacles in the way.
You've gotten stronger.
And I think after the hysterectomy, especially, it really allowed me to just close that chapter. So it allowed me to close the chapter on motherhood and open a chapter to sisterhood, I suppose.
I love that. That's really, really incredible to own your story. And that's a lot of emotions to go through. Like, even now, yes, I'm looking into your eyes and I keep saying that. It's like, and it's not for me to make you cry. That's not the point. But there is obviously there, but you're holding that, all that bubble of emotions in yourself, but then rebuilding yourself, because what we just spoke about, this is a space where you're a true inspiration, because a lot of people can sit and there's a lot of bad things that happen in everybody's lives. Yeah, no one's got a perfect life, but it's the resilience, it's the perseverance, and it's that stubbornness of saying, I'm going to get through this and I'm going to build my life and I'm going to design and redesign it and keep bringing new versions of myself. It's been incredible journey of yours. I can't even imagine what you've gone through. And it's incredible that you have been here today to share your beautiful journey, struggled, beautiful journey, because it's made you what it is.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, I feel like this is the version of me I've been dying to be, and I actually feel like I can embrace it. So on a daily basis, I am just getting to be me. I have a smile on my face, and it's not a fake one anymore. So I get to be me unapologetically, and I'm getting to share my journey with people like yourself who are inviting me to share my journey. And I didn't think so. Literally, I wanted this time last year, and now it's all actually flourishing before my eyes, literally. So I wanted a group of women just like myself. I've now created that. I wanted to share my platform in a authentic way. I wanted to share my journey on a platform authentically. That's now happening as well. So I feel like the version of me last year, there's no way she would have even imagined this version now. But like I said, I just love this version.
It's beautiful, and keep going. And that's exactly what I said. It's a beautiful journey. It's a hard place. But look what's brought out.
Yeah,
isn't it? Oh, thank you so much for sharing your story. And if you watch this and you want to be on the same group as Anika, please ping her, get on the WhatsApp group, because we all need support. And if there is a group of women who you can just talk to and get some more information as well before we make any of the decisions, because as we say, we only listen to success stories. There are some which will make you make a little more conscious decision, an aware decision. So please follow her and support her. And she is bringing a beautiful community together. Thank you, Anika.
Thank you so much for having me.